This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
There are so many things that we just have in our mind and we assume that they're correct because we've heard them 100,000 times. We got to get rid of all those myths. If you've done a great job saving, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you use the right strategies. Most people just aren't aware of them.
You've worked hard your whole life to earn and save. Now you need a plan to make that money work hard for you.
So people that have sacrificed opportunities to spend money, they sacrificed by putting the money in that 401k. They've sacrificed by putting that money in a 529 college plan for their grandkids. Those types of sacrifices should go rewarded in the long run.
John is here to help you find solutions for your retirement.
We are getting into the season that is travel time. So,
oh, it is. It is.
We were just talking about your girls before we came on the air. We won't go down that rabbit hole because that's a whole other show. But the thing that I think about with my friends that have kiddos your age,
sure,
they are unfortunately at the end of the day in charge of your vacation plans, are they not, sir?
Every single, and not even in vacation plans, right? Just normal weekend and weeknight plans. Like this past weekend, I will honestly say it was somewhat enjoyable that we went to St. Louis for this past weekend. Now, if you were around St. Louis last weekend, you know that there were tornadoes, 3 that touched down. So I spent a very good amount of time, Heather, in a back hallway in a Hilton Garden Inn with about 160 other people, mostly children, screaming at the top of their lungs. Oh. Not because they were fearful, but because they were excited. Because they were in a hallway in St. Louis, wondering if we were going to have any pelting sleet and or ice and or rain and or tornadic activity.
type experiences.
Yeah. But that was what I got to do this weekend. I got to hang out in a hallway in the Hilton Garden Inn in St. Louis.
Awesome.
Actually, to be fair, it was O'Fallon, Illinois, if you're really counting.
Wow.
Which I did not know that it existed, but it's kind of like a suburb, if you will, of St. Louis, Missouri.
We need to come up with your own little travel book, your own
it is unreal. Like,
weird town of passports that your kids' soccer matches have taken you to, like all the weird towns in America.
You have McNally's, and you have Foders or Fodders, however you call it, and then you just have John's roadmap to soccer tournaments around the Midwest. Yeah, so we didn't get back in until almost midnight on Sunday night last weekend. So I'm still not quite, almost a full week later, not fully recovered. Because of course with said tornadic activity came delays on one day, and we got to start the game off last Sunday at like 7:15 a.m.
Wow.
You know, so those make for good days when you don't get back in until midnight, you know. But anyway, hey, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, children and how they dictate our travel lives and sometimes every aspect of our life. You know, and it's good.
The thing is, and I know that I don't have to explain this to you, you got to enjoy it because one day those kiddos are going to be grown and out the house, and you're going to miss these moments, this precious time. Maybe not sitting in the Hilton Garden Inn hallway. Maybe not that moment.
Hey, at least it was a nice hallway. It was clean.
There you go.
I've been to some places that I would not have gone to the hallway. I would have gone out into the weather and prayed to be lifted out from that situation and maybe drop somewhere nicer.
Got it.
A few miles down the road.
Well,
it's just
all right. So the whole idea of where we're going with this conversation, because actually somebody told me earlier that apparently we spend 18 minutes a day at least daydreaming about vacations and time off and what we would do with our personal free time outside of work.
Is it correlated to time in a cubicle by chance? Because I don't feel like I get any of that time.
Right. Well, you're too busy with the screaming children in the hallway. They don't give you you need peace and quiet to have 18 minutes a day. And do you get 18 minutes of peace and quiet a day? You do not, sir.
I don't get 8.3 seconds. I don't get 1.8 seconds.
There you go.
Think. Yeah.
But for many of us who perhaps do get some of that peace and quiet, you may daydream about what your retirement is going to be like one day. However, our expectations may not be as accurate as we think because we have not properly considered how we're going to be using our money in those years.
Sure.
Wealth Logic founder Alan Roth was telling Time magazine there's a big misconception that many of us have about our retirement. Here's Alan.
There's a common perception that when you retire, your expenditures are going to magically drop. But what I've found, especially for those that have saved for retirement, is in the earlier years when they're healthy, and suddenly have all this time on their hands to travel, to go out, to spend money, that expenditures actually will go up.
One important thing he did not also say, and they don't have children that they have to pay for. Maybe they've got grandkids they want to pay for, but it's optional.
I want everyone out there listening to spend more money in retirement. I do. I mean this honestly. I have thought about this, about my own retirement. Yeah. And we're talking like 25 years from now, guys. Sure. I still got an 8-year-old. I'm going to be doing this for a long time. But when I'm thinking about my own retirement, I'm thinking, I know what I can spend when I only have like 20 hours, maybe less a week to consume it.
Yeah.
Unless I'm sitting on my phone buying everything from Amazon, that's not a good retirement.
Right.
Where are you going to put all that junk when it comes in from those cardboard boxes? Mm-hmm. But I really want people to really think, what would you do with your time? I would spend a fortune more than I currently spend.
Same.
When I have, let's say 25 to 60 extra hours a week to do fun stuff.
Yep.
I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, Heather, let me ask you, if given the choice, if you had your favorite performer, whether it's Kenny Chesney or whoever you like,
Bruno Mars. Lambert, I really want to see Bruno Mars in concert.
So if you don't have a job the next day that you have to go to because you're retired and you love him and you're thinking, okay, I can do this, but man, by the time I get home, it's going to be 2 a.m. But would you go do that, or would you rather pocket that money and just sit around and watch TV at home?
I want to go see the show. And I'm going to want the good seats because I'm a little bit older and I'm going to pay for my comfort.
And your eyes don't work as well, right?
That's right.
So you need to get a little bit closer to the stage. Mm-hmm. You need to see all of those awesome pelvic thrusts he uses that make us all think, man, I wish I could dance like that. I get it.
He is a good dancer.
We want that experience, right?
Yeah,
and we don't want to think, well, I don't know if at my age now I'm going to be buying concert t-shirts.
Right.
But if I did have the opportunity to maybe get a backstage pass or something like that, I would really try to think about doing that,
Why
right?
not?
Because you've spent your whole life working to get to this point. Why wouldn't you do that? That's just a concert. Maybe it's baseball game tickets. I don't want to sit out there in the nosebleed bleacher sections when I'm at Wrigley. Right. I kind of want to see what does the action look like up front.
Yeah.
What would it be like to be right behind the bench coach? Things like that. So, but anyway, when I get to that point in time where someone says, John, I'm going to be hanging it up in a couple years. The very first thing we look at, Heather, is how much are they currently spending?
Okay.
So Alan, I know, made a couple points, but I don't think that people should want to spend less than they're currently living off of.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd be living off of less. Let's think about that for a second. If you could live off of $4,000 a month, but you currently bring in $8,000 a month, why would you want to do that to yourself? I would rather you plan on finding out, hey, can you get really close to living off $8,000 a month? Can you do that and still get retired? Because you'd be surprised, Heather, what strategies are available this day and age right now that can maybe do exactly that. So usually I tell folks, hey, whatever you're making when you're getting ready to retire, let's see if we can't keep your income about the same.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to think that you need to sacrifice at this point. You've done all the sacrificing. You've done all of the saving of the money.
Right.
Now it's the time to be doing the spending of the money. And I don't know why that sounds so odd that I'm saying the saving and the spending of the money, but that's what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
This reminds me of a story about a couple. And they had come into the office and they were thinking, that they were going to spend about what they'd been spending up until then, right? They were spending about $4,000 a month, Heather. And that's what they had lived off of. And they just kind of said, I just don't think I'd spend more, John. But they'd saved $1.6 million, Heather. They had done a great job saving.
Yeah.
And we got to that point. I'm like, well, guys, what is your Social Security going to be? Their Social Security was going to be more than that $4,000 a month that they were going to spend.
Nice.
Yes. So talk about an awesome situation for them to be in. But guys, that still creates a little bit. It's a good problem, but it creates a little bit of a problem. And I was like, well, but guys, but you've saved all this money. Now it's time to start enjoying it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I really want you to consider spending $80,000 more a year than what you're accustomed to spending. And they're like, oh my goodness.
Were they literally uncomfortable? Yeah.
Her eyes got huge, like I was talking blasphemy.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I just don't think we could do that, John. There's just no way. I'm like, well, listen, I'm not telling you I want you to waste money frivolously. I'm not telling you to buy junk. What I'm telling you is that your quality of your life can increase by $80,000 a year, every year into perpetuity, and you would still have a bucket load of money to give to the next generation.
Wow.
And they were almost in disbelief. And when they started thinking about it, Heather, they actually did become clients. They came back about 3 weeks later after their monies had transferred in, and we were going through their strategies, because that's only when we find out, what do you really want the money to do for you? And I said, listen, guys, there's only 3 things that happen. You can spend a little bit more, or in this case, a lot more for what I was thinking they needed to do. Number 2, they can gift it. They can help out their kids or grandkids or their church if they want. Or number 3, they need a plan for a really awesome fat legacy plan where they're going to give a ton of money later. And the whole point is every one of those 3 things, where they spend it, they gift it, or they have a legacy plan, they all have completely different strategies that's going to be the best for them and whoever's going to receive the money. And that blew their mind. So what they came up with was a plan that did 2 things. They were going to spend about half as much as I suggested, so $40,000 more. And get this, that meant that they were going to sell their house and get a much more expensive patio home, but they were never going to have maintenance again. They were never going to have those problems that they were thinking about. They were never going to have to worry about upstairs bedrooms, and they just didn't think they could afford it. When they did that, it changed their entire outlook on retirement, that one thing. That's awesome. And then they thought, man, this is going to be a lot more fun than we thought. Then they started coming up with ways that they could do more vacations and travel. But what it amounted to, we needed strategies to protect money from Uncle Sam for those gifts that they were going to give, and we needed money to protect their income. And that meant that them just deciding, wow, they now know what they want to do. They had 2 different strategies that we were going after, and Heather, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings for them in the long run, just because we really understood what we wanted our money to do and how we should think about those expenses.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. It does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Jonathan Hicks, Insurance License Number 548962.